Simon says subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive notifications.
Copilot, super hot topic at the moment, and one that everyone should really be familiar with, regardless of whether you have access to it right now. Because, as we all know, AI isn't going anywhere, and it's just going to get more and more integrated into our daily apps. I know that Microsoft's roadmap is definitely just to bring it into everything that we do. So, what I'm basically saying is, if you're sitting right now and thinking to yourself, well, this might not be as relevant for me because my company doesn't have access to Copilot yet, or I, as an individual user, don't have access to it. Just know that it's probably going to come at some point. So, the quicker that you can kind of grasp how it works and really keep up to date with the changes, the better it's going to be for you. My name's Deborah Ashby. I'm a Microsoft MVP, trainer and content creator, and I've been working really heavily with Copilot over the last few months. Hopefully, that makes me qualified enough. We're going to start out by taking a look at Copilot versions because I don't know why Microsoft do this to us all the time. There's always multiple versions of the same thing, and Copilot is no different. There are currently 3 different versions: Copilot for Bing, or Copilot, as some people just call it. There is Copilot Pro, and then we have Copilot for Microsoft 365 applications. And it's the latter that we're going to be focusing on today. But I do quickly want to touch on the first 2, just so you understand how all of these 3 fit together and which versions are going to be most accessible to you at this current time. So we're going to take a look at that first of all. I'm then going to talk to you a little bit about the controversy that surrounded Copilot, because let's just say it wasn't well received when it was first released. I'll explain to you why and what they've done to overcome that. And then we'll dive into taking a look at demos of how Copilot works within Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And then I just thought it'd be quite fun to finish this taking a look at Copilot in Bing, because there's some really fun things that you can do with that. So I thought that would be just a nice way to end. So let's start out by taking a look at the different Copilot versions. Now, the first version is Copilot for Bing, or Copilot as people just refer to it. Now, this is the version that for me is the most like ChatGPT. So if you've ever used ChatGPT, you'll know how simple it is. You open up a browser, you go to the website, and you just simply type in your prompt, and it will give you an answer. And that is pretty much what Copilot for Bing is. It's accessible via a web browser, and it is free for everybody. So there is no charge to use this, much like the free version of ChatGPT. So everybody, as of this moment, has access to this. We then have another offering, Copilot Pro. Now, I've just kind of put this picture up here just so you can get an idea as to the difference between Copilot and Copilot Pro. Now, with Copilot Pro, it basically has all of the functionality of Copilot, but it's turbocharged. So it uses GPT-4 turbo technology, and overall, it provides you with a more premium experience. So things like accelerated performance to generate answers, content, and AI images a lot faster, even during those peak usage times. What you'll also notice with Copilot Pro is that if you do have a Copilot Pro license, then you do have access to Copilot within your Microsoft 365 applications as well. But it is limited to the applications that you can access it in. So this license here, the Copilot Pro license, would be more for individual users. So if you're just at home, you're not necessarily at your workplace, and you want to use Copilot Pro, and you want to use it within your Microsoft apps, then Copilot Pro would be what you would upgrade to. And this is a paid product. I think this is about £19 a month to upgrade your subscription. So what would that be? About $25, something like that. Obviously, check your local websites if you want to get the exact pricing there, but it's basically an add-on to your existing Microsoft 365 subscription. If you want to upgrade for that extra amount, you can, and then you have access to it. Now, the final version is Copilot for Microsoft 365 applications. And this is really designed for businesses, for enterprise licenses, things like that. So it might be that your organization that you work at decides to purchase Copilot for Microsoft 365 and you get Copilot added to your existing Microsoft 365 license at your workplace. Copilot is available in all of your applications. So some of the more business targeted applications like Microsoft Teams, things like OneNote. You've got chat in there as well. And you can see there it says enterprise grade security, privacy, and compliance as well. So this is the one that we're going to be focusing on. I'm going to be showing you how it works in those three main applications. So that is the main difference between those three. There's kind of a variety of Copilot for all budgets and all situations. Now, I will say that when Copilot was first released by Microsoft, it did come with a lot of controversy. And the controversy mainly surrounded the fact that initially it was only available to organizations of 300 plus users. And I'm talking about Copilot for Microsoft 365 applications. And there was a huge outcry at this because people had been waiting so long. Microsoft had hyped it up so much that everybody was waiting for Copilot to drop. And then it did. And they found out that there was this huge barrier to entry. So you had to have more than 300 users, and it was $30 per license per month. So the minimum spend for an organization when it came to purchasing Copilot was going to be a whopping $108,000 a year. And there was just so many people who were not happy about this. Now, fortunately, Microsoft did listen, and this was changed recently. When I say recently, I'm talking about within the last few months. They basically released an announcement that said that Copilot is now available to organizations of all sizes, so small and medium-sized businesses. And they also released Copilot Pro to make it available within the applications to individual users as well. So it has changed, they have listened, and it is now available to a wider group of people. So that's a good thing. Let's start talking about Copilot for Microsoft 365 applications now that we understand the background of Copilot. Now, before we dive into this, I want to issue a caveat, shall we say. And that is that Copilot is really in its very first iteration, meaning its very early stage. So some of the functionality, I would say particularly in Excel, it is somewhat limited, and you'll also probably be thinking to yourself, I could do that quicker manually. It is true to say that a lot of things that you can currently do with Copilot, it probably is quicker just to do it manually. But what you'll find with this application, like any new product that gets released, is that it's going to be developed and it's going to improve rapidly over time. And because I am a Microsoft MVP and I speak directly to the product team, I get to listen to all of the discussions surrounding Copilot. And I can tell you that so many resources are being put into this at the moment. You're going to see fast changes. So things that you don't like about it now will be changing very, very quickly. So just keep that in mind as we're going through. So we're going to start out by taking a look at Copilot in Microsoft Word. There's a couple of things that you need to be aware of before you even start to use Copilot. There's a few things you need to check, otherwise you're going to find that you can't access Copilot. So the first thing is, obviously, you need to make sure that you have a Copilot license. The next thing is that whatever document you're working on, and this applies to Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, whether it be a presentation, a spreadsheet, or a document, whatever you're working on needs to be saved to the OneDrive account that's associated with your Copilot license. Okay, so it needs to be saved to OneDrive. The third thing you need to check for is that you have the auto save button toggled on. So you can see here on my quick access toolbar, this needs to be toggled on. Now, if you've not done one of those steps, when you go to the home ribbon and notice all the way over on the right-hand side, this is where we have the Copilot icon. If you've forgotten to do one of those steps, your Copilot icon is going to be grayed out. So it's going to be inaccessible. I can't tell you how many people I have messaging me saying that their Copilot doesn't work because it's grayed out. And it's normally because they've got autosave toggled off, or they've saved it to their desktop or some random location, they haven't saved it into OneDrive. So make sure that you do check those things first of all. When it comes to using this, you will find that Copilot tends to take quite a lot of thinking time. So when we type in our prompt and it's processing, that can take quite a bit of time at the moment. And this is one of the things that is going to be vastly improved, the amount of time it takes to return our results and actually get it to perform a task. When you open up Word, you're literally going to see this draft with Copilot box, and this is where you type your prompt. Notice underneath also we have a reference a file button. So if you want to get Copilot to draft a document that includes information from another file, then you can do that. If you happen to close that box, you can simply click on the Draft with Copilot icon to bring that box back again. And you'll see this little icon in your Word document when you're in your Copilot account. So we're going to type in a prompt here. I want Copilot to draft a document that explains the benefits of Microsoft Teams for collaboration. So we simply type in our prompt, and then we just click on the Generate button, or we can reference a file. Now, if we choose to reference a file, it's going to show you the last 3 files that you accessed. If the file you want isn't one of those, you can simply start to type the name and it will search for it and you can select it from there. Now, we're not going to reference a file, but just to let you know you can do that, we're simply going to generate. And this will go away and it will start generating a document based on the prompt that you typed. So you can see here, it's going through. At the bottom, we can choose to keep it, we can delete it, we can regenerate if we don't like the text. I'm going to keep it. And there we have our document. So it's a really quick way of just getting information into a document. And you can then, of course, edit it and do whatever you like. Now, some other things that you can do, you can see here we've got some bullet points in this document. Now, what I could do is select all of these bullet points. And I could choose to visualize these as a table. Notice we've got 2 little options there underneath the tag. Now, if I choose visualize as a table, it's literally going to take those bullets and create a word table from those. And as somebody who creates word tables, I can tell you that this is actually a bit of a lifesaver. One thing it won't do, though, is it won't delete the text above that you put into the table. So you can see we've got the text in the table, but we also have the same text above. Now, this is just a regular table, so we still have access to the table design and layout tabs. And I'm just going to go up and delete out the text that it's copied into that table. But that's a really nice, quick way of being able to visualize your data in that way. Now, another thing that we can do, again, another little option that's lurking under that Copilot tag, is we can use it to rewrite sections of our document. So maybe I decide that I don't like this first paragraph. I can select it, click the little Copilot button and choose Rewrite. And it will draft a few different rewrites and you can then read through them and choose the one that you like. So you can see here it's given me 3 different versions of the rewrite. I can scroll through. And then I can choose if I want to replace, if I want to insert below, regenerate, and I can even adjust the tone to something a bit more casual if I want to. So now I've changed the tone, I'm going to regenerate, and it's going to, again, come up with more options that are of a more casual nature. So I can scroll through, I can choose the one that I want, and I can click on Replace to replace that current text. So you can see this works really well for quickly editing your documents as well. Now, so far we haven't clicked on the Copilot button, so let's do that. It's going to open up a pane on the right-hand side where we have some prompts at the top there. We can choose to write about different things, change things, or we can summarize or ask questions. Now, one option that I really like is summarizing documents. And you can see here I started to type it in and then realized that we had a pre-built prompt just above to check. Let's click Summarize the document. And what that will do is it will basically create a bullet pointed list of just the main points in your document. Now, I find this brilliant for long documents. I was looking at a 200-page legal document, and I really just wanted to cut through the noise and summarize the main points. So it was a PDF. I imported it into Word, and then I basically used Copilot to summarize it into sort of 7 or 8 easy bullet points. So it's a really nice way of kind of just breaking down large documents. So you can see here we have our main bullet points from this document. We could then choose to copy and paste those into an email, maybe send them to our boss. This is also great for things like meeting notes as well. Let's click down in the prompt area, and this time I'm going to ask my document a question. So you can also do that. So I'm going to say, what type of platform is Microsoft Teams? So you can ask your data questions. Obviously, the answer has to exist in the document for Copilot to be able to return it. You can see here it's managed to do that, and it says, according to the document, Microsoft Teams is a cloud-based platform. When you're using Copilot in Excel, and this is just a data set that I downloaded, when you're working in Excel, if you want to use Copilot, there is an additional step. So aside from making sure that you have your spreadsheet saved to OneDrive, aside from making sure that you have autosave toggled on, you also need to make sure that your data is in a table. Okay, so with data, if you press Control T, that will put your data set into an Excel table. And your data has to be in a table for you to work with Copilot. It can only currently work with table data. So if you just have a blank spreadsheet open, you start typing some numbers in, Copilot isn't going to be able to access it. Okay, it has to be in a table. So much so that when we click the Copilot icon to open it up, if you haven't put your data in a table, it will prompt you just here saying it can only work with table data. Please put your data into an Excel table. Okay. So just be aware of that. There is an additional step when it comes to working in Excel. But when it comes to Copilot in Excel, I would say that this is the application where I feel it's the most limited. Or I feel that certain things that I've tried to do with Copilot that in my mind I think it should be able to do quite easily, it isn't able to do. Whereas other things which appear to be more complex, it can do. So this is sort of a little bit hit and miss at the moment. It is pretty impressive, some of the things it does do and some of the things it can work out. But this is the one where I think you're probably going to look at this and think to yourself, I could do this a lot quicker manually. And that is true at the moment. But as I said, it's going to improve rapidly. You can see some of the things we can do: add formula columns, highlight, sort and filter, and analyze our data. So it has the same structure. We've got some preset prompts underneath that we could possibly use, and then our prompt area at the bottom. So I'm going to use Copilot to do some formatting. The first thing I'm going to ask it to do is turn off banded rows in my data set. So what you'll notice shortly is those grey rows will disappear. It's managed to toggle off that table style. So for formatting, it's really good. It can do things like bold different things. So let's ask it to do some more formatting. Notice in my data set, in column D, we have an invoice date column, and currently I have the wrong formatting applied. I have general formatting. So I'm going to ask Copilot to apply short date format to the invoice date column. And it should be enough to handle this. So let's send that through. You can see it says working on it, and we should hopefully find that it's going to apply that formatting, which it does. Perfect. You can see we get a little bit of an explanation just above, and if you take a look at column D, we now have short date format in there. Let's move on to doing something similar in column I. You can see price per unit. Again, we just have general formatting. So this time I want to apply accounting formatting to this column, but I want it to have 2 decimal places. And you have to be very specific with your prompts. So have to specify 2 decimal places and also the column name. When we send that through, we should find that it doesn't have too many issues working that out. And there we go. You can see column I now has that formatting applied. So there is some really cool things that it can do with regards to formatting. Now, the next thing that we're going to take a look at, if we scroll across and take a look in this total sales column, we can use Copilot to apply conditional formatting. So maybe I want it to highlight in yellow all values in the total sales column that are over a specific amount. So in this case, over 400,000. So this is pretty much conditional formatting that you're going to see in action just here. But things like this are great. If you don't know how conditional formatting works, then this is a great way of doing it. You can see there, it's just highlighted all of those values. And this is just a conditional formatting rule. So you can edit this in much the same way. You can go up to conditional formatting, manage rules. There's your rule, and you can edit the rule. You can go in, you can change the logic, you can change the background formatting that it's applying. You can still do all of that kind of stuff. Now, we can also use Copilot to do things like sort and filter our dataset. So you can see in the region column, column E, currently I have this sorted by region Z to A. So maybe I want to switch that the other way around. My prompt is going to be sort the data by the region column, and we're just going to specify A to Z. Once again, it can do that. It can also filter columns as well. So again, a nice quick way of doing that. And you can see that it's just finishing up. And now we have it sorted. There we go. Now, one of the coolest things that I think is the ability to add formulas into columns of the table. So maybe I want to calculate what the operating margin is based on the operating profit and the total sales column. I can get Copilot to add a formula column to this table that calculates exactly that. So I want it to calculate the operating margin, and I want that to be based on the operating profit and the total sales. I'm also telling it how I want it to be formatted as well, as a percentage with 0 decimal places. Now, notice there, I'm not telling Copilot what calculation it needs to perform. I'm not saying multiply by this, divide by that. I'm leaving it for Copilot to work out. So I'm giving it the information, and I'm going to see if it can work it out. So let's send it through and see what it does. So it's going to generate some formula suggestions, and you can see what it's done just there. So if we scroll up, we can see a little explanation about the formula that it's come up with. And then we can see the formula underneath, which is basically operating profit divided by total sales. And notice underneath, we have a little explain formula drop down, which will walk you through exactly what that formula is doing. This is brilliant if you get a spreadsheet from somebody else that contains a formula and you don't understand what the formula is doing. You can run it through Copilot and it will give you like a bullet pointed breakdown of what that formula is doing. If you hover your mouse over the insert column button, you get a preview so you can see what it's going to look like. If you like it, then click to actually add it permanently to the table. So that little preview option gives you an idea as to if it's done what you want it to do before you actually add it. So adding formula columns is great. Now, a couple of other things we can do. We can summarize our data set. So if we type in summarize this data, and I'm going to summarize this data by region and total sales. And what I'm kind of looking for here is a pivot chart. And you can see that's exactly what it's generated. The pivot chart that's going to show me the total sales by region. It's going to give me a breakdown underneath of exactly what that pivot chart is showing. So we can see all of the metrics, all of the numbers, and then we can choose to add it to a new sheet. And what this will do is it will create a new worksheet, and it's going to add the pivot table and the pivot chart. So again, if you're somebody who's not familiar with pivot tables, this is a great way to do this. We can click go back to table to get back to our original data set. So those are some of the things that you can do with Copilot in Excel. There are so many other things that you can do in there as well. This is probably the one that I find is the most useful. I've done loads of things or created loads of presentations using Copilot. It's a great way of just getting information into slides and getting the bare bones of a presentation built really, really quickly. Once again, all of the general rules apply to PowerPoint that have applied to the other applications like Word and Excel. So we still need to make sure we're logged into the correct account. We still need to make sure that we have our presentation saved, which I currently don't, which is fine because we're not actually going to use this presentation. And you need to make sure that you have autosave toggled on. Again, mine's currently toggled off because I haven't saved this presentation yet. So make sure you have those three things working, and then you should be able to access the Copilot icon all the way over on the right-hand side of the ribbon. So this is what you see when you open up Copilot in PowerPoint. again, we have three things at the top, and these are the three main things that you can do with Copilot in PowerPoint. So we can create a presentation. We can create a presentation from an existing file, and I'm going to show you an example of that. We can have maybe a file or a document in Word or in Excel or somewhere else, and we can get Copilot to use that file and build a presentation based on the information in that file. And remember, if it's a Word document that you're using, and we are going to use a Word document in this example, the Word document that I'm going to use just contains text and headings, and we're going to get it to create a presentation. However, if you were to have things like images in that Word document, it would also incorporate the images from the Word document into your presentation as well. Okay, so just be aware of that. So we're going to start out by creating a presentation. And notice in the prompt box, it's put in create a presentation. And now I'm going to say what I want to create a presentation about. So I want to create a presentation about the importance of bees to the environment. Once again, we're going to send that through. Copilot's going to go away, have a think about it, and you can see it's giving me a 5-slide presentation about bees. Now, I'm not saying that this looks amazing, but remember, you can go in and you can pretty much customize everything. If you don't like the images, you can switch those out manually. If you want to change the font, you can do that. This just gives you the text that you need and some images if you want to keep them. It gives you a head start as opposed to starting from scratch. The other thing I really like about this is that it does automatically add speaker notes for you. So you don't have to type these. It's going to add them in based on the information that it's pulled out for this presentation. So that is one of the things that I really like. Again, everything is editable. And if you don't like the way these are designed, you can use Designer in the top right-hand corner to change the way that these slides look. And I know a lot of people absolutely hate Designer. Sometimes these offer up some really nice slide layouts that you can simply apply. For example, this one's quite nice. But again, everything's customizable. You don't have to use Designer. You can use your own images, but this does give you a little bit of a head start. So I'm just going through and using Designer to just update these slide layouts to something that looks a little bit nicer, like so. And there we go. Very quickly, literally in a few seconds, we've created a presentation. Notice the prompt I'm typing now. Add a slide about the different types of bees. So on the fly, we can just say, okay, add a slide about this, add a slide about that, and it's going to add it into the presentation. So this works really well. We can then click on Designer and choose the design that we want to use for this particular slide. So I actually really like some of the elements of PowerPoint, and it's just a great way of getting information quickly into a presentation. So let's move on to the next thing. I'm going to ask it to remove bullet points from slide 2. So you can get it to do different pieces of formatting to your slides as well. So you can see here very quickly, it's removed those bullet points. It can do things like make text bold. It can change the font in placeholders. All of those types of things you can do with Copilot. Another really good thing that I'm just demoing here is add sections to the presentation. I've typed that prompt in, and very quickly it creates an outline for me. You can see that in the Copilot pane, and it's grouped my slides into these useful sections. I can then expand and collapse those different sections depending on what I'm interested in looking at. But it's done that all using AI. I haven't had to create the sections myself. So we're going to close down this presentation. I don't need to save it because I want to demo the next thing of interest. And for this, we're going to create a document based on a template that we just have in PowerPoint. So I'm just going to choose this modern conference template, and we're going to pretend that this is our company's branded template. Because a question I get all the time is, can we get Copilot to create a presentation that uses our branded colors, our branded themes? Yes, you can. Just simply open the template like I've done here, select all of the slides and delete them out. Then when you fire up Copilot and you ask it to create a presentation, so I'm going to ask it to create a presentation about the importance of mental health in the workplace. When you send that through, the presentation that it creates is going to be based on the template that you had open. So you can see it's created this presentation, but it's actually using my company branded template. So that is all of my company fonts, all of my company colors, all of my company layouts, things like that. So you can use your branded templates with Copilot. And I think that is really cool. That's one of my favorite things about this. Of course, everything is customizable as it is with any of these presentations that we're creating. So let's close this down because there is one more example that I'd like to show you. And we're going to go back to File and we're just going to open a new blank presentation because this time we're going to create a presentation based on a Word document that we have saved off. So we're going to choose Create a Presentation from File. It's going to list out all of the last files that we've saved. Now, if you can't find the file that you want in the list, in the prompt area, you can simply just start to type the file name. So you can see where my cursor is flashing. If I click down there, I know my document is called Solar System. So I'm just going to start to type in solar, and then there it is. It's found it. I can select it from the list, and I'm going to say create a presentation based on the text in this file, send it through, and it's going to create that presentation. So it's going to create the outline, first of all. That really determines the slides it's going to create. So this is going to be a fairly short presentation. I think we're going to have 5 or 6 slides in it, but it's going to use all of the text and anything that I've included in that Word document it's going to put into the presentation. Now, I really dislike the template or the fonts that it's applied here. So this is where I could go in. I could use Designer. I could change my theme. I could update my fonts. But again, it just means I've got the bare bones of that text into a format that is pretty useful. And it just takes a few seconds. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to apply a much nicer design to each of these slides. So I quite like these icons. Let's apply that. Again, we're going to select this one just here. And with things like font, you can get Copilot to replace the font for you. Alternatively, you can just go up to the Home tab and choose Replace Fonts to switch all the fonts out very quickly. So let's just do the last one. There we go. And that is the third way that I like to use Copilot in PowerPoint. There are some occasions where you will ask it to do something and it can't do it. For example, format the background of all of the slides to black. So it's telling me in the prompt that it can't do that just yet. Instead of asking it to format the background, I'm going to ask a question instead. So I'm going to say, how do I format the background? So Copilot is great for asking questions. If you don't know where a command is, you can ask it where the command is in PowerPoint and it will show you. Now, because I've asked it this question, how do I format the background? It's now giving me detailed instructions. I could even click on do it for me and it's going to jump me to the correct part of PowerPoint where I need to go in order to format the background. Now, I'm probably not going to want to make this background black, so let's undo that. But it's really useful for things like that as well. If you're not sure where the command that you want is on the ribbon, then you can get it to help you out and jump you straight to it. So those are some of the ways that currently I like to use Copilot in PowerPoint. We're going to open up Copilot for Bing. Now, just to recap, this is the free version. You do not need a license to access this version. All you need to do is open up a web browser and go to copilot.microsoft.com. You can see that up here in the URL bar, and it's going to take you to this page. So again, if you're used to using ChatGPT and going to a website, this is basically the same thing. Notice at the bottom, we have our prompt area. This is where we can type in our prompt. And you can type anything into this prompt area. So it really depends, what you're interested in learning. So I could say, create an outline for a children's story, something like that. I think most of us have had a little play around with things like ChatGPT in the past. So you kind of get an idea as to how this works. But I just wanted to demo that because I think a lot of the people at the moment think that Copilot is only available with a license, that you have to pay if you want to use Copilot. And that's just simply not true. Some of the more advanced versions, yes, there is a charge, there is an additional licensing fee. But for plain old Copilot on the web, this is completely free. So you can see there, it's just generating a little outline for a storybook. The final thing, because I think this is actually pretty cool, when I found out that it could do this, I was obsessed with it for a good week. I couldn't stop generating different images. Because one thing with Copilot is that it's integrated with DALL-E. But DALL-E basically is another AI app, should we say, that is now integrated into Copilot, and it allows us to create composite images. So I could type in anything into Copilot and ask it to create an image. And this opens up a world of creativity. So I had so much fun a couple of weeks ago. Because I have a YouTube channel, I'm constantly designing thumbnails. I was generating all of these different kinds of images, and it was just super fun. So Copilot, the free version, you can use in exactly the same way you used ChatGPT, or you still use ChatGPT.
A big congratulations, everyone, for making it all the way to the end of this course. So it's just about time for me to sign off and say goodbye to you all. I hope you enjoyed running through this course as much as I've enjoyed teaching it to you. Once again, my name is Deb. Bye for now.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.